Hi, this is Mesha with As Long as You're Breathing, and this is an Every Life is a Story event, and I am so pleased to be bringing you Dianna Leeder. Welcome, Dianna.
Thank you so much, Misha. I'm honored to be here with you.
Thank you, thank you. I want to get just a little bit of housekeeping out of the way. If you have not enabled your settings for StreamYard, then I'm not going to be able to see when you post in chat. So I'm not ignoring you. You just need to go into your settings and enable it so I can see that you're here. We're glad that you're here live. Please let us know any questions you have, and we will be happy to stop and answer them. Love having people here live. If you're watching via recording, just be sure to tag us and we will come back and answer your questions. And that's about all the housekeeping I have. And so I'm just going to get out of the way and let our guest tell us her story, because I do know I've seen what her book is about. I've seen what her website is about, and we've spoken a little bit. And I know that you all are really going to be in for a treat today. So without further ado, a woman who has other women develop confidence in speaking their voice, Dianna Leeder.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. And I'm really, as I said, I'm really honored to be here and be able to share my story with you. So my story has, I suppose everyone else's, has gone over quite a span of time. I was kind of a regular kid growing up. I didn't have a torturous childhood. I was loved. I was probably spoiled. Well, according to my siblings, I was very spoiled.
Mine too.
Yeah, funny how they like to say that, right?
Yeah.
I was the baby of 5, and I think that just kind of carried on over the years. So I when I talk about what it was like for me and how it made me who I am today, because that's kind of where we are, is exactly where we are today.
Mm-hmm.
I like to call it I wasn't raised to be a badass. And that actually is and I'll talk about this a little more later, but that's the chapter in my collaborative book. That's what it's called. I wasn't raised to be a badass.
Okay.
So in not being raised to be a badass, it wasn't that I wasn't loved. It was that I wasn't taught to be independent.
Yes.
I was taught to be dependent on other people around me, to expect that they would treat me in a certain way, and that they would guide me.
Mm.
So I didn't have to learn how to guide myself. I didn't have to step out of interactions or growth challenges to use my voice and to be different. I didn't have to do that. That was done for me. There were enough people around me to do that for me.
Mm-hmm.
So while I was loved like crazy, I remember later on kind of assessing it in my brain, thinking, yes, I was taught to be a nice girl. I was taught to be polite and well-behaved and respectful.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't taught about the independent piece, how to be an independent woman. So it didn't, and I say this in the book, it didn't have to be one or the other, but it really was. It could have been both, but it wasn't.
Right.
So that kind of led me into places where I began to recognize where my voice was not loud and proud, where I was afraid to use it, or where it was automatically assumed that I wouldn't use it. And just kind of the regular, if you take a look at your lifespan and think about the influences that happen to you relative to using your voice, there are, all of us have so many, and mine were kind of progressively the ones that were clearly shutting me down, to the ones where I waffled. Would I respond in a way that supported me, or would I keep the status quo? And it kind of progressed as the years went on. And I remember thinking, when I when I, needed to be somewhat independent, I remember thinking, okay, well, the one thing that I know really, really well is how to stay silent, and how difficult it by then had become to feel that I was being shut down.
Yeah.
So that was the work that I began to do, was to support women to use their voices. So that was decades ago. I mean, I'm outing my age, but it was decades ago. And I, over the years, I did some magnificent work, and I'm very, very proud of what I did and the number of women that I supported and advocated for to stand up for themselves, either as individuals or groups. So I worked in domestic abuse, I worked in sexual assault, I worked in community development, I worked in economic development. So it kind of spanned pretty much, not every, but most issues that affect women, and that was good. That was fine. And while I was doing that, of course, I met the love of my life.
Good.
I had 2 children, and all the while, I mean, there were things that I wanted to do. I didn't have someone else saying, you need to get married and you need to have kids. But there was that kind of overlying, of course, social expectation that we do that. And,
Yes.
and when I met my husband, I wanted to do that.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Sure.
And we're still together today, so it must have been a good choice, I think.
Good.
However, as excuse me, as the years went by, um, more, there was more gut stuff that was happening to me, more that little voice that was saying, "There's more. You're
Yeah.
doing great. This is fun. This is really good, and it feels really good, but there's more." And that was really hard for me, because initially I thought it meant that I needed to choose, my family life and those decisions that I had made
Mm-hmm.
for myself. So I had to really figure that out, how to bring that together in a really positive way for me. And then my husband, um, sort of out of the blue, although when I look back, it really wasn't out of the blue,
Mm-hmm.
told me that he wasn't happy.
Oh.
And
Oh.
yeah, that was like, holy shit, what now? I
Yeah.
wasn't at the point. I mean, I knew that I wanted more, but I wasn't at that point where I understood how to get there, or feel confident enough that I, was sure I could get there. So
Yeah.
it was terrifying, for a
Yeah.
silent woman. It was absolutely terrifying to me. So, but that was the crossing, in the road. That was the one where I had to stop and say, okay, I can't do this anymore in this way. If I, as much as I've been, expecting, just expecting him to love me the way he always did forever, something has shifted. There's something wrong, and I can no longer rely on that. Okay, what does that mean for me? I needed to rely on me. Absolutely needed to rely on me. So that's the work that I've been doing now for over a decade. Now is that, and I've continued to do my work with women, to continue to support them. And part of what came out of all that initial realization that I need to do this for me was the beginning of Crave More Life, my coaching practice.
Right.
Yeah, which has just put me on a very different path, and I'm very, very, very grateful. And in terms of the work, I better kind of give you the ending to the story with my husband too, because I kind of left you hanging, I guess.
Well, I was going to ask. I was going to give you a little time, then I was going to ask.
Well, you always have to kind of finish the story, right? So it because I was able to begin to look at what was happening for me, and how I needed to rely on me to get through it. And he was doing the same thing. So by that, we were able to create a new relationship that really has 3 elements to it. There was him, there was me, and there was us.
Wow. Imagine that. 1 + 1 and equals 3. You, and you, him, and the relationship. That's I preach that all the time. So I do, yes.
I like to. I knew I'd like to.
I knew I liked you too.
Yeah, it had to be that way because we are,
Yes,
and we all do this in relationships. We
yes,
come to them as individuals.
yes,
So, when we're not thinking about who we are and who we want to be in that relationship, and we're just thinking, oh, this is fun, I'm cool, I'm in,
doesn't work.
you get lost,
Yeah,
which is pretty much what I did. And by my getting lost, he got lost as well. So
right,
it took a lot of work, a lot of tears, and a lot of stress on the heart. It was hard work, but well worth it. And
right.
we don't have our squabbles now and all that, but yeah, it put us on a very different path for sure.
Right. Because by defining what that relationship is, really, I call the relationship the third person in the relationship. I say there's me, there's you, and then there's the third person in our relationship. The relationship is what I say, and by defining what that is, then you eliminate what the squabbles are, and you develop this place of communication and agreement and of where you meet to grow and change. And so
Yeah.
I believe that totally. But so you had years of dealing with, because you said decades. So you had decades of women using their voices because they had been abused or because they were in the workplace and learning to speak up in the workplace or even to speak up at home or whatever. So you did this for years, but then you didn't necessarily put it all together to this point until the crisis point came in your own marriage. And so even though you were telling women to speak up and they were successfully doing so. I mean, because I think we all did this for years. I think for years we were finding our voice and we were having degrees of success with it. But I don't think we understood the fullness of it until just recently. I don't think we understood I think we were still doing the 1 + 1 equals either. Well, I think we were still saying 1 + 1 = 1. I think we were still saying we were going to come together to be whole, which was not, or 1 + 1 equals 2, meaning that the two people, we're together as a couple, and we're two, but we're still one, which doesn't work either. So I think we were still trying to do that and not understanding that it is a third person in the relationship. So I think that's the missing component in my opinion. But yeah.
I do too. I think it's and I think about this a lot now when I see new couples getting married or just coming together, whether they marry or not. That wouldn't it be novel to be coming and together and saying, this is what I need in a relationship.
Absolutely.
To say, this is what I need. And then going from there, one of the things that we built out of all this, my husband and I, was that every new year, we simply say to each other, I want to be here another year. Do you?
Yeah.
Because it's not guaranteed. Just because you're together doesn't mean you have to be together going forward unless you want to be. So, by saying that, and so far he has said, yeah, I want to be here too. And then it can be the conversation then can change about, okay, so we have something good here. How do we make it even better?
Yeah. It's kind of like the, if there's somebody that you really want, you want to catch them, but you don't want to trap them. You want them in your life. You want them to want to be caught. You want to be together, but you don't want to trap them. You want them to want to be there. So the romance of catching someone, but you don't want to trap them, kind of thing. But
yeah, because there's really there's nothing that good comes out of being in a relationship that being trapped or being not being in there with both of you being wholehearted.
Right.
It doesn't lead us anywhere good.
Well, one of the things that I found, because I've kind of done the same thing you're talking about. I spent years talking about using your voice and speaking up, and I spent years using behavioral styles, to try to teach people to bridge, to communicate. And I kind of ran into the same thing that you did. It was this okay, we can't read each other's minds. And so we should tell one another what we want. And so, like, if you said, what I found was if I said, okay, I would like to get flowers once in a while. I understand that they're kind of a frivolous expense. So I'm not saying buy me $50 flowers, once a week. Yeah, but a $5 flower on the way home every once in a while. And what I got back was instead of and what I'm getting to is how do we change this? What I got back was instead of hearing me and understanding that I was trying to communicate a need so it would be met, what I got was, well, now that you've told me if I do that, it won't mean anything. And so I wasn't heard or listened to or my need met. So how do we overcome that? How do, once we start expressing what it is we need and we're trying to explain, no, I'm expressing my need, expecting you to meet it, not play mind games with me or use that as an excuse not to meet the need or whatever. How do we get the other person to that point? Or can we, if they're not ready to be, can we? Because I don't know. So I'm asking.
I'm not sure that I have the right answer for everyone, but off the cuff, I would say that, yeah, we can't make them do something that they're
Right.
with it, that they don't understand or they don't know or not drawn to do, not pulled to do. Now, by expressing our needs, that's huge. And I think that we have to set the bar for ourselves about what needs that we have are the ones that are they absolutely need to be met,
Right.
for us to be fulfilled. And then the ones that would be really nice. That would be really cool. I'd love to get flowers. I rarely get flowers anymore. I used to get them all the time, but yeah, rarely anymore.
What happened to that?
I don't know what I'm going to do when I get up there. But there is a place where, some things are just red flags.
Right.
So, and they are the big things that we need. So for instance, if my husband cheated on me, that would be a big thing to me, a very big thing to me, right? So that would be, as my mother used to call it, a hill to die on, right? The flowers, it's like, well, you know what? I can go buy my own flowers. So I would say that to you, Maisha, go buy your own flowers as often as you want them.
Right.
Because I also think that there is, there are relationship things, but there, really what we're doing by expressing our needs is to, we're being true to ourselves and we're supporting ourselves. So there is such awesome energy, spiritual energy in getting our needs met, right? So no matter whether or not your partner is doing that for you, I mean, lovely little gestures. Yes, they're beautiful. And hopefully you're listening and you're offering back things that you can provide too.
Right.
But the issue really is getting your needs met. So and
I think that was the point. I used flowers as a frivolous example. I think the point was that when you reach that point where you're saying, let's not read each other's minds, let's say what it is we want. And the other person uses that as, I think what I'm saying is, I think that's a red flag that person is not going to do that. I think is my question.
And you are the one that would know that, being in the relationship.
Right. Yeah. And so I think that is kind of where we're at too in society is, I think we are at a place where there are people who are ready for relationships like that and people who aren't. I think I think that's kind of where we're at, and we're trying to up level everyone to that point. I think that's why why conversations like this are being held, is to get everyone to see we can all up level to these relationships, And I think by people talking about their stories and saying, look, we've done this, each side of us, we've each listened and we've each expressed what our needs are. And instead of coming back with, well, now I'm not going to listen to you because you told me it doesn't matter. Instead of coming back with that, coming back with, I hear you. And, oh, by the way, this is what I need too. And so creating the dialogue instead of coming back with a shallow answer is where I'm going with it, because I think that's what we need to up level to, is coming back with the dialogue on both sides and people seeing that that's So yeah, I started buying my own flowers. You know, yeah, I did that. You know, so so definitely. But I think that's that's why we went so many years with starting to use our voices, and then I think we got to the point where we realized that that wasn't just the answer. The answer was we had to use our voices, and not just the women use their voices, but the men had to start using their voices in response. Because I think that's what we started doing. I think we started speaking up, and so they just listened, but they didn't speak back, I think. So I think we didn't have a dialogue going. So I think now that's what we have.
Yeah, I think that's true. And definitely the dialogue has got to happen. It's got to be 50-50. It can't be one or the other. And you can't hold any expectation of what the other person's going to do, you know? So
right.
Yeah, you need to speak your mind and express your needs, but you can't do that when you are also thinking, you know, he has to meet them, or he or she need to they need to think about this in the same way that I do, because they're not.
Right. They're not. They're not. No.
So conversation, and to carry the conversation on even farther, is awesome. Absolutely.
Right. And I think that's what you were saying when, because you talked about how you did all these years of doing this with women, and yet you knew that there was something not there. And then your husband said, I'm not happy. So it's when his voice came into the mix, when he started speaking up, that's when the change happened in your life, really. I mean,
right. He cut off the lifeline to me to
right.
independent.
Yeah.
You know, and thank goodness that he did. You know, I'm very grateful.
Right.
Yeah, he basically said, nope, can't do this anymore in this way. So, you know, for me to be able to move forward and continue with, you know, with the work that I was doing in a even more meaningful way, then, you know, I had to start to rely on me.
Yeah. And I think that's a beautiful thing too, because I think as women, we needed those decades of learning to use our voices first, and men getting used to hearing us use our voices. I think that was a growing time we had to have. But I think we've gone through that time, and I think this is a period of time we're at now, is where men are now used to women speaking, but now it's time for them to speak too, and now we need to listen to one another and actually build together and listen to one another. And I think that's where we're at, and I think that's what you're facilitating, and I think that's wonderful, because you've done it with your own life, and so now you're out causing that to happen. And so I think that's an amazing thing.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
I think too. Yes, and I certainly agree that men need to start talking, for sure. And you know, and men have their own deal about they speak up, or what, you know, what kind of baggage they're bringing to relationships. You
absolutely.
know, their own stuff. And you know, honestly, I don't work with men because they have their own stuff, and I don't know that stuff.
Right. Absolutely.
I stick with women because I'm clear about that stuff. But you know, there is that piece that I think, because yes, I believe it's been, you know, I mean, it's been coming for a while, and it's been building and building, that we need to be using our voices. I think the part that really resonates with me, though, is that we do it unapologetically, that we're not doing it because we want to subtly or not so subtly manipulate other people.
Right.
You know, we're just, if we're going to do it for ourselves. You know, do it so that we are clear about the woman that we are. Because that's where the strings fall. You know, that's where the strength then, you know, comes from the bottom up. That's when the alignment happens with who we are, and that's the place where we're going to be the happiest, no matter what happens in our relationships around us. You know, I mean, certainly strengthens us to be able to have better relationships, for sure. But I think that's always the piece that resonates with me. You know, like you have to be you know, and whatever you want to, however you want to manage that with people in your life is how you will manage it. But you need to decide that,
right?
Know, as opposed to, oh, look, we got married, we're in this for life.
Right. Because being you and being whole is how you manage to hold yourself together when whatever relationship around you falls apart or leaves. I guess when no longer serves those people is really, we use dramatic words. We say falls apart or ends or whatever. But the truth of the matter is relationships actually no longer work when they no longer serve people, whether they serve in a functional or dysfunctional way, that's debatable. But when they no longer serve us, that's when they aren't there anymore. And so if we're strong within ourselves and if whole within ourselves, then we can do that. And I absolutely agree with you on that. That's what we have to do. So I've heard you talk about women using their voices. So what are they using their voices to say exactly? They're saying what their needs are, but they're telling their stories too, right?
They're telling their stories, and that's what the book is all about. So
right.
I was do this, put it in the wrong way in the camera. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, so Find Your Voice, Save Your Life, Powerful Women, Real Stories. So this was a collaboration among 24 women who each wrote a chapter, including me, each wrote a chapter on their experiences with losing and finding their voices. And it was an awesome process. It really was. Some women had written before a little bit, some had written a lot before, others had not written at all. But they all kind of came to the table and said, I've got a story and I need to tell it.
Right.
So in terms of my practice, I support the women coming in terms of their writing and getting, expressing their story, getting it from their heart to the page, and getting it into a format that is readable in a book.
Right.
A lot of times, especially if we've had trauma, our stories just, and I say this with all the love, but we vomit it out first time. When we haven't written it before, out it comes, all of it. It's really, really healing. But it's not much of a story. People can't usually follow that in a story. So we can do that whole piece. And of course, then the book is published, and this one was #1 bestseller. So bestseller, very excited about that. And so then they get that piece about, okay, now I am a published author, and I have that. That's an accomplishment. Yeah, really big accomplishment. So. And then just having this book, especially if for the women who are practitioners, so because many of them are holistic healers, they get to use the book then as a promotional tool for themselves and their businesses, which is awesome.
Right.
So Find Your Voice, Save Your Life 2 is in the works. I'll do this again and get it in the
I know it's awkward. I know.
The other way. It's coming out in actually it's kicking off in May, and it will be published in August. So if you have any interest in writing a chapter or learning more about the book, or I call this my Voices of Women project. So I will do one-to-one coaching with women to on their stories themselves, whether or not they have any interest in being a published author at the end of it or not. So I kind of do both those pieces, but one can lead to the other. So if you have any interest in that, then let me know. I think that the stories, just to go back a bit to your original question about the stories, the stories are powerful. So powerful. I had women. Well, one of the reviewers talked about. These stories made me sad and they made me angry, because a lot of them, and here we are on International Women's Day. A lot of them are women have experienced simply because they're women.
Yeah.
So the expectations of us as wives, the expectations of us in the workplace, the expectations of us as daughters and mothers, all that is part of it. So, which is why it's so important for us to learn to be who we are and to have the courage and the confidence to speak to what and who that is, and to live from that alignment, because that means that, you choose what you're doing and when you're doing it and how you're doing it, as opposed to doing it because society says that you need to or you should. So the story, yeah, the stories are super powerful.
Coming from a coming from a chronic pain background, what I found that helped me so much was I did the quantum emotional healing, which dealt with patriarchal mindset programming, and that helped, helped immensely, kind of along the line of ancestral clearing, that type thing, and I spent years and years in therapy thinking that I dealt with all of that, but then moving into more epigenetics type things, spiritual type healing, that type thing, has made all the difference, and much quicker, much deeper healing. And I've written for years as well, and so I've journaled, I've written, I've done all of those things, and they are very healing. But I think we've moved into a time when we accept types of healing that we didn't accept before. And you said that many of your writers are holistic healers, you said. So,
Yep.
so
Yep, there are quantum healers in this book. There are women who, going the range, there are also women who have never written a word, never.
Mhm.
But quantum healers, there's a wonderful woman that I would love to connect you up with, actually, who
I would love to.
works with chronic pain. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's I think the spiritual piece is huge, and it's becoming more and more popular. I think, there was someone quoted this some time ago, I think, but it really stuck with me that, people who don't understand what it is are the people that call it woohoo.
I love that. Yes.
I kind of like the title woohoo, but I like it in a positive way.
Yeah, I use woo woo too, but when I say it because to me it's light and it's airy. It
Yeah,
speaks of how it feels, so not in a derogatory way. But yes, I like that what they said. Yes.
yeah. So I think when we're looking at healing now, I don't think we can ignore the spiritual piece. I don't think so. And even even thinking about the book and how healing took place for women as they wrote,
Yes.
and including the women who are very spiritually connected, who have done lots of writing before. I was getting messages left, right, and center. Thank you for letting me be part of this, letting me understand myself on that deeper level. Like,
Right.
it was so incredibly powerful. It gives me chills just thinking about it. And personally, for me, I'm just learning about what my spiritual gifts are.
Okay.
So yeah, energy healer for sure. So I'm just starting to practice with some success, which is very exciting for me. My
Awesome.
understanding is that I'm part angel and part fairy. And I like both those. The fairy one is really kind of exciting to me.
Cool.
um, and and yeah, that ability to, well, and here it is. It's the ability to learn more about ourselves and the spiritual realm, to open ourselves up to it and allow ourselves to be to offer more than what we're offering now. So, while I'm just beginning to, notice when energies, other energies are here with me while I'm on a coaching, in a
Mhm.
coaching relationship. Um, I'm also noticing how I can send distance healing, and how my own hands will heal someone else's pain, placed on. So, 10 years ago, that would have just been woohoo to me. Like, no, I don't think so. Even though my children have been very, very connected all along, their whole lives, But for me, it was like, I used to think, oh, where they got that from? Well, I guess they got some of it from me. So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's an
Well,
exciting time.
the way I see it is that's an extension of your voice. It's another way of expressing yourself. So it's an extension of your voice. So really what I think's happened is you're finding another way to use your voice and for women to use their voices. So I can see where your chapters could start expanding into that, where women talk about using their voices other than speaking, because we do use our voices in other ways. So
absolutely.
yeah.
I would say that the voice is just the first, that's the most obvious place.
Right. Right.
When someone says use your voice, that's what they expect that you're talking about is,
literal
speaking. Yes. In fact, yeah, there are so many others, and I always take, because I think I have being in that practical place for so long in my life. I have a good sense of what that looks like. And I want to be able to ensure that the women that are hearing me understand that, there is a bridge there, that it's not just practical and woohoo. It's all of it. So to understand that, even from the practical side, when we are using our voices, we're expressing who we are. That's what we're doing. But there's so many other ways. So, the color of our hair that we choose, or not choose. Thank you, COVID. The way we decorate our home.
Yes.
The space that we design that makes us aligned to who we are and gives us comfort and freedom.
Right.
The relationships we choose, like all those things are expressions of who we are. And if we don't know ourselves well enough, then those things are not going to be exactly what we need to honor ourselves.
So definitely expressing ourselves and using our voices, it starts with speaking, but then not just saying it, but then the true expression is in the life that we build, the life that we create, the life that we live. So we can start by saying the words, but then if the life that we create doesn't line up with the words that we say, then we haven't really embodied what we're expressing. And so, and there's the challenge and the harder part, because we can get to maybe where we say things, but it's a little harder sometimes. Well, I guess the old adage, walk the walk, talk the talk kind of thing. It's a little harder. And I think that's where having a coach helps, because we can conceptualize and we're very bright women. We can get our heads around. We can read the book and say, yeah, that's me. And we can find the right words sometimes on our own. But then to find the strength and to find the daily practice within us to be able to make it a practice and then build that life, that's the harder part, I think. And so I think that probably working with you as a coach, that's probably where the necessity of a coach comes in. Is that how you see that component?
Absolutely. It's a support for being able to be who you are. And no one, it's not as though, I would tell you what you were supposed to be.
Sure, right.
But we're, together we draw that out, and then I support you in ways that help you be that person, to help you be her. And that can, that is based on that kind of teaching piece, is based on the decades that I have worked with women, and what I know is pretty clear, and it's really three components. So you learn to, what I call, lovingly kick your own ass, which is
right,
basically taking radical responsibility for your experiences. If you don't like the experience that you're having, you have the power to change it. So how do you change it? And the second piece is about getting to know who you are, and that piece I call deep core mapping. So you're actually mapping out everything you know about yourself, and getting down deep to places that maybe you didn't ever acknowledge. Yeah, that's deep, but I don't let anybody see that part. So by the time you get to the third section, the third component, you're doing it. You're acting it out. You are who you want to be. And it's never, this, it's never perfection.
It's a work in progress always.
always, always, always. And I think it will be forever, you know, and that's okay. That's
Well,
absolutely.
because we're always evolving too. I mean, as we experience new things and as time passes and as because we grow and change and so it's going to always be a work in progress. And so I think so that just that part alone is going to be a work in progress. But so whenever we're mapping ourselves out, as you say, so kind of give us an example of what that looks like because how do you go about doing that? How does one map oneself out and find those deep, dark places? And how do we do that?
Well, you know what? I like to start with, again, to go back to the practical because I find that you know, if you don't kind of care, if you don't cover the practical and the woohoo, then someone doesn't get it, right?
You have to have both. It's got to be both. Absolutely.
So I like to start with things like just recognizing and putting on paper, even if you know it already and it's easy for you know, the foods that nourish you, the
Mm-hmm.
foods that don't nourish you, that, you know, that zap your energy instead of nourish you. The kinds of things that, you know, the same for whatever you know, you consume. So is coffee your friend or is it not your friend? And it really is about what works for you and what doesn't. So I like to start with what you know. And it may be, for instance, one of mine is that I know that I can't wear high heels anymore. It's just that. I just
Just can't
can't.
do it.
Heels and I put them somewhere really pretty so that I can see them, but I just can't wear them anymore. And you know, and that caffeine is not my friend, so I can't. You know, I need to avoid that.
Mm-hmm.
Exercise is my friend, and I have a lot less discomfort in my body as I'm aging. Much
Mm-hmm.
less discomfort if I'm moving it.
Right.
You know, nature is my friend. So there are all the places that you. I think it starts with mapping out, writing down exactly who you are, what you know about yourself. You know,
Okay.
what it is that you need in relationships. What are the values that you hold, you know, so dear that if you didn't have them in a relationship, you would not be okay. You know, you're
Mm-hmm.
looking for the things that make you feel good, the things that make you feel happy. And then you can move into a place where you're doing more of the, you know, moving into the woohoo a little bit, where you can, you know, you can get silent. You know, you can start to, you can meditate. You can just simply be with yourself and ask. I like to think that there's an inner goddess in there in that deep core somewhere. And
Absolutely.
yeah, so you talk to her and you ask her, you know, what else do I need to know?
Right.
You do that often enough, you're going to get the answers. They're coming to you. Yeah.
My friend Maura says if I knew the answer, what would it be? Because we know the answer. So then we just go within and there's the answer. It's going to come to us. So absolutely. So then one component of it is to if I knew the answer, what would it be? And let your inner voice tell you what else it is you need is what you're saying.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
because we do within us, we know what it is we need.
Yeah. We do.
So
And
it's silencing ourselves and listening to that and acknowledging it.
yes.
Okay.
Yes. Absolutely. And you can also do, you know, you can do a test. Really, all you have to is you need to just think about, you know, whatever the component is that you want to test, and you'll get a body reaction.
Oh, okay.
If it's a good one, like if you're feeling, you know, relaxed and calm, and if you do feel any flutters, that it's excitement. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's a much different feeling than what you get when you are thinking about something that doesn't serve you, or that is not your thing. That's where you're going to get, you know, either the heart's going to beat faster. You know, you may get, you know, breathing constriction, and
Mm-hmm.
one of my favorites has to be, and it's definitely most of the women I've ever worked with, is those nasty bowel issues that come with, you know, with stress. So, you know, it's all the things that we experience when we're not aligned with ourselves.
Right.
So if we find something and we sit with it for a while, and we listen to our body, if we pay attention to our body,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to know pretty fast.
Right.
And
Okay.
the point is, as you said, you know, I mean, you're lying, and then that's what you go for. You know, you close the door on the rest, you put it over there, you know, and then and then you really go to be that woman with all those different components. So if someone offers you something else and you know that it's an absolute no, then you can confidently say, no thanks. That's not my thing, but thanks anyway. It doesn't mean we have to be rude about it, or I mean, if that's your thing, go right ahead. But you don't need to be rude about it. Chances are, I'm going to say that rude is not a value that most of us carry, not on purpose. So,
Right.
So again, that's, you're using that part of you that you're bringing that into play when you're doing your practice, when you are getting out there and using your voice and being who you are. And you can then use, you're accessing your confidence because you know those things.
Right. I think it's what allows us then to listen to someone else say, want you to hear who I am. This is, and you let them say, and you're like, okay. And you can say back, okay, but that's not for me, or however you need to say it. But there's no judgment to it. I mean, that's just not, and it's just not. And so you just say that's not, and just let it go. And either, it is what it is, so. And I think that surprises people when you can do that. They don't expect that, because people expect people are so used to when you don't agree with them, especially if it's something kind of shocking. People expect if you don't agree with them, they expect a reaction. And when they don't get one, when you're okay with, well, it's not me, but okay, that kind of throws people. So we throw people when we do that, I think. But it's a testament to the fact that we have gotten to know ourselves. We're comfortable with who we are, and we accept other people as they are. And it's, either we can meet or we can't. And so how do we handle the fact that, okay, we don't want to have expectations of people, obviously. I mean, we can't do that. We can't expect somebody to be something that they're not, et cetera, et cetera. But at the same time, relationships are intradependent. I mean, if we are in a relationship, there is intradependency. So when we enter into a relationship, we are agreeing to some level of, I guess what I'm saying is we're saying this is what I will do. So we're basically, I guess what I'm saying is, we're saying this is what you can expect from me. Is that what we're doing when we enter into a relationship? We're defining for someone what they can expect from us. Is that what we're doing in a relationship?
I think that's a great way to describe it, actually. Yeah, we are sharing what they can expect from us. And by then, I would hope that we would know what the other person is expecting relative to those big ticket things. So for instance, are you entering into a relationship where it's okay to sleep with other people? Maybe. If you are, that's up to you, right? That's it.
Yeah.
If you're not, then clearly you're going to know that before you enter into that relationship, if that's your thing.
If that's your thing, that's your thing, right? Yeah.
So yeah, I love the no expectation thing, and that's the piece that ties into the taking radical responsibility for yourself. Because as soon as we begin to have expectations of other people, then we lose sight of our own needs. It's just based on how can that person meet this in me, when we again need to meet those things for ourselves. So if you're not getting it in a relationship, then you need to go deal with it. But it doesn't mean that you can't find that elsewhere. So I realize I completely understand when you were first asking this question about when you're in an intimate relationship, it's not as simple. It's not the same kind of relationship as your next door neighbor.
Right.
There are depths to it, and definitely more intimate details that you need to be very clear about. But those are the things, like, be open and talk about those things.
Right.
Yeah, know your partner, give them room to say who they are and to be who they are. It's funny because after, my husband and I will have been married for 40 years this year.
Mm-hmm.
And we're still figuring out there are still new things that come up for us, about ways that we thought we were similar, but we're really not. Now they're not hills to die on, as I mentioned before.
Right.
They're simply places to learn more about each other without judgment. So, if and this is one that we have known for some time, he loves to ski. I hate the cold.
Right.
So I'm fine with a book and a glass of wine in front of a fire having, in a chalet or something. Um,
Hmm.
and that's fine. I'm not going to tell him, no, you can't ski because I don't like to ski. And he's not going to say to me, well, I don't want to be married to you anymore because you don't like to ski. So, I mean, we have things that we like to do together, some things we don't. So it's kind of, that's a simplistic example.
In my mind, you all went skiing to me because you all did go skiing. He went skiing and you went skiing with him. You had your wine and your book. And when he got through with his part of skiing, then you all did your joint skiing together, whatever that is, dinner, whatever, So to me, that's the couple went skiing, and skiing is defined as whatever the two of you define it as,
Right.
So that's how I see it.
Vacation. Yes.
You're right. Yeah, we went skiing, and well, he actually skis. This is how I ski, and that's and it works for you. So,
one of the other things that I want to throw out as just a fun kind of thing to do with your partner is to ask them, and this is the exploratory stuff.
mm-hmm.
Ask them how they feel loved. That's always been a really interesting one for us. Like how
Wow.
do you feel loved? Because you automatically expect that if you do the things that make you feel good,
Then they feel good.
yeah, but it's not always the case.
I love that because it's like because I always think about that with gifts, because when you get a gift, you think, okay, no, the gift I would like would be what they like, but it's not. So, but I like that you said that, because I've thought of that, but I don't know that I've ever articulated it. I don't know that I've ever said, so what makes you feel loved? I've thought of it, but I don't know that I've ever said it. So I like that you said that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's a good one, and it really does take you quite deep, in
it
terms of
does. Yeah.
honoring each other. You're allowing yourselves to be independent. Those two independent people then are coming together in the relationship. So the more you honor the two, then the middle relationship becomes that much stronger.
Right. And so, and what you're doing there is that's another way too of going deep, and who am I? It's another way of digging in and finding what makes me feel loved. So
Yeah, I wonder, if you'd never been asked that question before, it would be, think about that for a little bit.
yeah.
It's similar with all the deep core things. And actually there was even a conversation the other day with a woman, and she reminded me that, and it's so true, that our sexual preferences, our sexual desires, that they're all different as well. So
Right.
don't forget that as a piece of not even in relationships, because I think if you're looking to get your needs met, it doesn't always have to be in a relationship, as long as it's adult and consensual and
Right.
thing, right? So there are just so many, there's so many places to look for things that we need to know about ourselves.
I think that using our voices is about, if we use our voices, we eliminate expecting from other people, because what we're doing is we're defining ourselves, and we're expressing, this is who I am and what I know I need. And if the other person, if we align ourselves with someone who is also at that same level, or that same mindset, or that same vibration, whatever way you want to, however you want to express it, if we align ourselves with someone who does the same, then that's where we eliminate expectation, in that there's no need for that, because we're both using the same language. We've both defined, this is what you can expect. And so certainly there's going to be some of that back and forth, as you say, especially the more intimate the relationship, the more, but I think using our voices is to define who we are and what you can expect from me is what we're doing when we're using our voices. Because what you can expect from me, using our voices shouldn't be just about, what do I want? It should be, how do I present myself? What do I bring? Who am I? And who am I should be more than just what I want. It should be, what can you expect as well?
Which I think, though, I think that they're connected.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They are both. Yes.
Yeah. If we're in relationships, then that has to be part of it. Absolutely. We have to say what we're prepared to bring to the table. And
Right.
else, though, if you really want to, if you're in a relationship with somebody and they say, well, that piece, I don't know about that. Like, again, it's like, how do I like, how do you like to be loved? How do you feel loved?
Mhm.
So it always takes a little bit in the relationship, in that middle piece. That's where it takes some adjustment. You're not changing who you are. You're offering. I think that maybe that's where that piece belongs. You're offering that piece about how I can, how I can be in relationship with you in the most positive way. So you get
Right.
to keep who you are. They get to keep who they are, and in the middle is where you bring the two together in whatever
Right.
way it's like. Yeah.
Right. And I think sometimes also what happens is there's so many ways that there's, I don't want to use the word good, but that there's overlap, or that there's a meeting of the minds or something like that. So everything doesn't have to align perfectly. There may be things that, as you say, if it's not, what's the term you use? The hill. What was it you said?
Oh, the hill to die on.
Yeah. If it's not a hill to die on thing, it may be something that you can, it may be something that you can compromise on, or that it's not as, so it may be something that you're like, okay, that's not as important to me, that when we put that in the middle, that may be something that, so the third person in the relationship itself may look a little different than if you were just standing alone. So yeah, I think it's I think we see so many things alike. I just think you're fascinating to talk to. We could talk forever.
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah, we have about 3.5 minutes left. So, how do people work with you? How do they contact you to be in the book? I have your website up. I do have cravemorelife.com. I have that up, but because I would love for people to contact you and be in your book. But how do they just work with you if they want to just have you help them do all of this?
Okay. So cravemorelife.com is my website. So that's the place to begin for sure. You're going to be able to see my one-to-one coaching programs. You're going to be able to see the Voices of Women project, and different, what I'm doing right now is there. I also pop up, like, take the time to download my ebook.
It's very good.
Yeah, yeah. A new version is on the way, so hopefully it'll be even better. But do that, because I often will pop out just, last minute group things, or, different opportunities for coaching or freebies or whatever. I put that all on my list, which goes out. I like to call it Sunday morning coffee with Dianna, and it comes out every Sunday morning. So yeah, so take a peek at that. The book itself, the process for that is that we would chat. So find me, send me an email at dianna@cravemorelife.com. And if you have any questions about any of the programs, or the one-to-one coaching, any of it, please, there's lots of stuff on the website, but please, just you can send me an email and ask us, no big deal. So yes, back to the book. If you send me an email, just let me know that you're interested, and we can set up a time to chat. And it's really just a process of understanding if you and the book are really a fit together. If it, because it needs to serve you, right? I mean, it's awesome for me to say, oh, come and write in this book, which I'm super excited about. But this book has to serve you too. So that's what I do in terms of the interview process. And then once that happens, and it's an application form, but it's really just more of a registration form. And then you register, once you're in, then you register with the publisher. So she has all your information, and we hang in until the 1st of May. And then we start with an awesome kickoff party. And then we get our writing on.
Uh-huh.
And anybody that needs kind of some pre-writing, which some have said already, they want to begin earlier, just to get a sense of, where their writing is and where they are in their writing, and any tips that I can offer them to move that forward. Then yeah, we can certainly figure that out before May, but the actual book itself process doesn't kick off until the first week of May. So
Awesome.
yeah, so I would love to have more bodies in this book. It, as I said, if you, or and just, it's International Women's Day, so go and get the book. Like it's
Absolutely.
it's I mean, here we are talking about women and being aligned and using our voices, and it's such a perfect day to be talking about all that stuff.
Yes, it absolutely is.
Yeah. So, and or if you know somebody else who really needs to read, I mean, that was one of the goals of the book, was to, as you know, was to have a two, there were two. One was to have a platform for women to do their writing, write their stories as they needed to, and secondly, to have the stories and have the book there so that women who were ready to get on their own healing path, as you mentioned, you don't just read a story and then it just happens magically. It doesn't. So,
Mhm.
but these stories can help you get on that path for yourself. So yeah, if you know somebody who is struggling, so yeah, share it with them. Happy International Women's Day to you, because your voice is important and you deserve to use it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you so much for being on. And when the book is out, I want you to come back and share about the book. We'll have you on as long as you're breathing when that happens. I want you to come back and share about the book.
Book, okay, and
Yes.
I will absolutely do that. And I'm sorry, I just forgot one other thing. If
Mhm.
you, I assume that most of your listeners are on Facebook, so come and join me on Find Your Voice Women. So that's the group that I've created for, around the issue of women and voice, and all the co-authors of this volume and the next volume are in the next volume, when they're ready, will be in that group. So
Okay.
we do live readings, we do, supported programs, we do all kinds of things in that group. So I'd love to have you in there.
Okay, I'll add that in there too. And so thank you so much. And as you say, this is the perfect day to be here. And this is also the perfect platform for you to be on as well, because what I tell everyone is it is your life, your story, write it your way. And as long as we're living, we're not out of ink. So that's exactly what I believe. So I'm thrilled that you're encouraging women to use their voices. And everyone, thank you for being with us, whether you're live or whether you're catching the replay. And do support Dianna Leeder and what she's doing, her work, and the women who are writing in the books that she's putting out. This is a wonderful platform for women, and this is a really good thing. So do support Dianna and what she's doing. And thank you for joining us. And you know what I'm going to say. As long as you're breathing, keep living. Thanks, y'all. Bye.
Thank you.